Hi, this is Rich Wurzbach, the inventor of the Grease Thief. What I want to show you today is how we can get a sample from something that's already been sampled. And so what I mean by that is the Grease Thief kits are available. There's a number of different designs there for different sampling challenges and applications, including wind turbine sampling kit. But let's say you've already taken your samples from the field and you've captured them in a jar like this. How do we get the grease in a form that is easily then tested and is indeed representative of what sample has been taken? So I'm going to show you two methods today that can allow us to transfer the grease from a container like this reliably without a big difficulty in transferring it into a vial or something like that. So the first one that I'm going to show you is the Grease Thief itself using the T handle. So in this same kit that I'm showing you, which has these wind sleeves inside it, I'm going to use one of these with the T handle to obtain a sample from one of these containers. So I open that up, and all of our Grease Thief supplies are protected and kept clean in a sealed container before we use them. In this case, I'm just going to use the Grease Thief itself, which has a red piston in it and a yellow cap on it. I'm going to place the rest of this kit aside, but in the field you could be taking a sample with this, with the spatula. There's a syringe here that helps you transfer the sample that you gather and then put it into the Grease Thief, and then a tube to store it in. But right now I'm going to focus on getting the grease out of one of these containers, like an oil sample bottle or something like that, and into a way that we can easily test it. So the T handle itself here, I'm going to start by removing this knob that's on the back end of that, and that allows me access to an inner rod section and then a collar, a threaded collar section. The inner rod has on it a keyhole cutout, and then I'm going to just push that up so that I can place the matching part of the handle that fits into that keyhole cutout, and then push that assembly down. Now there's a thread in this outer rod, and by turning the Grease Thief, I'm turning that inner rod that's holding onto the handle, and I'm seating it in the threads of this outer tube. Now what I want to do is set the depth that I'm going to take my sample, and in a machine I can do that. Here I'm just going to make sure that when I take my sample and I hold this at the top, that I finish up close to the bottom of the container or maybe in the middle of the container, and use that to line up these holes that you see in the handle. So I line those holes up, bring the knob back, and then I push that through the rod and then the aluminum portion here of the device. Now when I hold the large barrel section, I can move this section back and forth to actuate that sampler, and I'm going to start now in a position where the red piston is at the end. So now I'm going to open this container, and I'm going to place the Grease Thief and the T handle into it until we hit that T, and when I get to that point, then I'm going to push this forward, and I'm inside coring that sample. And I just wiggle that a little bit and pull that out. I can kind of try to get some of it off the side before I start wiping it off. So now I'm in this position where I've cored that sample. I'm going to wipe off the grease that's on the outside of the Grease Thief. I get a good bit of that off, and I'm going to grab this yellow cap, put that over the top. Now I can kind of finish wiping the outside off using the best would be a lint-free towel to accomplish that. And when I get the outside of it mostly clean from the grease that it kind of cored down into that sample, now I'm going to remove the knob again and hold the Grease Thief and then turn that. Let the inner rod spin, but turn the Grease Thief to unscrew it from the tube that holds it in place. When I get that out, I pull that, and then slide it out of that keyhole cutout. And now I can kind of do a final cleaning of the outside of the grease thief. So now I've transferred that grease from this container, and you can see that's nice and full because of the coring action. And this is the challenge. It's hard to get it into a small vial because of having to displace the air that's in there, and grease doesn't really do that well. So this sample is now ready to be inserted into a sample coring device like the Poseidon FurrowQ, a sample screening device like the FurrowQ, where we're going to drop that down into the coil. It's going to take that reliable ferrous measurement, and then I still have my sample to do other analysis that I may want to do. If we have this kit, then we can go ahead and transfer that over once we've taken that reading to this capped tube. And generally it's best to put the handle down first, put the lid on top of that, and then use whatever our labeling method is. Here we supply barcode labels with the kits, and you can then identify, retain that sample, use the values you got from the FurrowQ, and then also send this off for analysis if needed. So that's one approach, and that's called the Grease Thief T-handle with grease thieves that you would get from a kit like the wind sampling kit. Now the second method that I want to show you is using the Grease Thief Slim. So the Grease Thief Slim has a similar, it looks different, but it's a similar approach in that we have a piston. This time it's a black piston inside a tube, and the tube is going to be cored forward to take that core sample and extract that back out. So this time I'm going to use this container here, and this is what we've sampled with that we want to transfer for the purpose of being able to take readings from our screening process like the Poseidon FurrowQ. And I start with, again, the tube is flush with the piston. I'm going to insert that far enough in that I can then advance and core that sample going forward, and then I can extract that out. Now when I pull that out, I'm again going to take my rag or my lint-free rag or my towel or what have you and wipe off the outside of this piece, and you can see again I've cored kind of a pretty reliable sample of that grease, and in this case I'm using the smaller tube that fits again right into the FurrowQ. So I'm going to have a barcode label on there in this case, and I can now transfer this over, pushing this forward and kind of grabbing that piston on the way out, and just drop that right into the tube, put the cap on it, and now I have a sample that has all that grease in it. I didn't have to try to push it down inside and get it down inside, but I can drop that right into the FurrowQ, take my ferrous reading, and then take this to the laboratory if I need to do further analysis. So again, these various kits are available at the greasethief.com website. The different types of kits are outlined there. Each kit has a number of these sleeves in it. The wind kit has 8 sleeves, so you can take up to 8 samples in this way. And so if you had taken a bunch of these samples, had a lot of these jars of grease, it's just a matter of the process of transferring it using one of these two methods into the vial or to the Grease Thief itself, where we can take those first screening readings and then also do a full test slate of up to 10 different analyses on the grease sample, including the consistency change of the grease, which can be evaluated through dye extrusion, the antioxidant levels, so again the aging of the grease, presence of contaminants, different types of wear metals, additives that are there in the grease or that might be missing from the grease, evidence of grease mixing, external contaminants, dirt, water, what have you. All that can be determined with the Grease Thief and then grease analysis. But focusing today on showing you how to transfer the grease that's already been sampled in bottles into one of these two methods that we can insert into the FurrowQ screening device.